so how the hell am I going to be a cannabis activist if I'm not willing to show my face?
It's one of the things that's tough for people is, it's like coming out of the closet for someone who's in the LGBT community. It's a difficult thing to do. It changes your life sometimes. It can change your relationship with family and grandparents and friends and stuff like that. But it is important, and people do need to, especially in this day and age, I mean, now that we have laws are changing, it's time to let people know how we feel and that we are, conscious cannabis consumers and productive citizens that happen to love, smoking pot.
There are totally productive stoners.
Oh, yeah. I mean, most of the ones I meet, you can't really pull off events like this and have all these booths and have, this type of thing without people working really hard. And yeah, they have fun, but, it's a job. And, it's a wonderful industry to be a part of, but it's hard work too.
Well, here's a question from Midnight Garden. He would like to know what kind of organic pesticides would be good to use while growing in an outdoor environment?
Wow, okay. Well, I mean, I always talk about, predator insects. There's predator mites if you have spider mites. There's ladybugs do a good job on a lot of pests that eat cannabis. Even praying mantises are a wonderful, sentry that can kind of protect your plant from a lot of harmful thrips and things like that. And ultimately, I think neem oil is really good to spray on. And those are really the best organic ways. And then there's all kinds of other things you can do that aren't organic. But I think pest management really means catching things before they become a problem, so that you don't have an infestation. You have a population that's trying to gain a footing, and you don't allow them to gain a footing. Once you've allowed spider mites to establish themselves in your grow room, they're practically born pregnant. So they reproduce very quickly, and many generations of them will happen very quickly, and pretty soon you'll have webbing. So if you don't act immediately, like the minute you see any kind of problem, you have to act immediately and eradicate the problem. So pest management is even more important, I think, than actually dealing with an infestation, because by the time you have an infestation, you're already too far along. If it's bad enough, it can be something where you have to just start over. I have seen pest populations that were just impossible to beat back.
Take preventative measures, grow kind.
Yeah, and always look under the leaves and at the surface of the soil. That's really, they like to hide under the leaves. It's a great place for them outside of the light, where there's moisture and food and everything that they want. And they love that surface of the soil too, because it stays moist and it's a welcoming home for them. So if you can bottom feed your plants and bottom water, that helps a lot too. The roots will pull up what they need, and that top layer, which doesn't have a lot of roots in it, won't be constantly soaked, which is inviting things like fungus gnats and things like that to just set up shop.
Our second question comes from Ross Ganja. He says, I find that when I brew my teas that the finished product's pH is very low, sitting around 4 to 4.5. Should I be worried about pH adjusting it in any way, or should I not worry since it's organic and full of microbes and just let the lime in the soil buffer?
I think 4 to 4.5 is pretty low on the pH scale. I think you want to bring that up, I would say, in a soil application to 6.0, 6.3, anywhere between basically 5.8 and 6.5 is going to be fine. As far as the lime in the soil, if you have it in there and it's really buffering things to neutral-ish, like around 7, that's going to help, but continuous application of something that's 4 to 4.5 will eventually bring your pH down to a level where you'll experience nutrient lockup, and certain things won't be able to be taken in by the roots. And a lot of times those things look like deficiencies, and what they really are is an overabundance of those nutrients, but the roots are unable to take them in because of that pH imbalance. So I would try in soil to maintain it right around 6.0, 6.2, and that means adding pH up to your 4.5, if that's where it's coming out to. And it's true that teas do tend to drift a little bit in that lower pH direction. So you can bring them up a little bit to 6.5, and I think that's, in the long run, it's going to be a lot healthier than just feeding your plants 4.5.
Okay, and wine can only go so far. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a buffer, so it's going to raise low pH and it's going to lower high pH, but it's not an end-all or a cure-all. It's a buffer, so you have to use it wisely.
Okay. Okay, a question from Resin Rubber. Yes, Resin Rubber. He's actually the guy who taught me everything I know, so props to that guy.
Shout out to him.
He is awesome, and yeah, much love from Disco. He would like to know, what do you see in the future for small cultivators / cultivation in the next 10 years?
That's a good question. I mean, the only way, I don't think you can win a cannabis cup with something that's grown, in a huge warehouse with, 50,000 plants. I think small batch is the way that you're going to get great quality, just because you're taking more care with each individual plant, with each individual bud. So I do think that, that connoisseur and aficionado cannabis market is going to always demand small batch indoor. So I do think that people who are really good at that and have that dialed in are going to be just fine. And I think the people who are able to transition into growing in the larger type applications are going to do great on a retail level. But there's just always going to be a market for niche, connoisseur quality cannabis. And the only way I've seen it accomplished is really pretty much in small scale farming. So, closets, grow tents, things like that, where you can pay enough attention to each plant throughout the process, including trimming, including curing, the whole process start to finish. It just always tends to work out better when it's small batch, and I think it's like that with beer, it's like that with wine, it's like that with cigars. I think it's like that with our thing too.
People are definitely willing to pay a little more for the quality and love shown.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's obvious, and that's really one of the reasons this contest exists. Is people want to know, what else is out there that they haven't tried. Is there something out there that blows their stuff away? And that, that's ultimately what we're all after, is that holy grail, and having, a quiver of jars of different strains for different applications, daytime, nighttime, uplifting, relaxing, that sort of thing.
Walmart prices are like their quality, always low, so definitely.
Yeah, I mean, the market will dictate where things are going to be. So if people demand a high quality product, then the people who are making that are going to do just fine. And if people are willing to settle for swag, then they're not really paying attention.
Chris?
I got stuck in the swag mood myself for a while.
Yeah, it happens, and then and then one day you try something and it's got the flavor, it's got the aroma, it's just it's got the potency for it lasts long, and everything changes. You can't really go back to something that's not going to cut it after that. You really want to improve the quality every time.
Definitely. And then the last question is a question from me. My question is about organic bloom boosters. What are some organic options for increasing the yields and potency of our finished products?
Okay, well, organic bloom boosters. Advanced Nutrients has a product called Bud Blood. That's actually a really good one if you're willing to use blood meal kind of product. It's great. It works great around like the 4th and 5th week of flowering. Typically, most strains are done by about 8 weeks. So right around the 5th week, you can use that, and it's a really good flower enhancer. If you're more on the vegan side of things, I would recommend a organic compost tea, definitely aerated compost tea. It's important that you oxygenate any tea that you're going to do for 24 hours or so in order to get that microbiology and the bioactivity going on.
On science.
So I recommend that. You know, I think, you know, kelp is always helpful, even though it's a great in veg. It's also a wonderful supplement in flowering. And, you know, bat guano is the ultimate flowering nutrient. I mean, as far as fruit, you know, plants like mangoes and things, bat guano is the most highly sought after flowering enhancement product out there. So I highly recommend bat guano as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time and thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
I'm Discorilla. Yeah, I'm Discorilla from Grow Kind. This is Danny Danko.
Grow kind.
Yeah, grow kind indeed.
Thank you.